First things first, I have to make a disclaimer because I'm hella short of breath today. I'm 32 weeks pregnant and I cannot breathe. Like, I'm struggling to catch my breath, and because I'm going to be talking a lot, I'm going to run out of air. Hey everybody, in this video I am going to be talking about getting pregnant. Not like getting pregnant, you know. Tips on how to conceive faster, advice, little things that I've learned over time on what helps you, or if there's something you're unsure about, I might mention it in this video also. So if you're interested in finding out different tips and tricks and things you can do to help yourself get pregnant faster or prevent pregnancy, then keep on watching. Okay, so I've seen a bunch of videos here on YouTube that give advice and talk about different things you can do in order to help yourself get pregnant quicker, or if you're struggling with infertility, there's different things you can do. And I don't think that a lot of people know enough about it to explain it, besides tracking your periods and your ovulation, maybe taking OPKs. That's kind of like where it ends. I don't really see people giving advice on different things you can use, different methods, or what might actually be causing the problem. So I want to start with the first thing, which is periods. So the general space between periods, you have like your 28-day cycle, which means that you'll start your period basically every 28 days. Some people's 29, at 32. That's usually the normal. If you're like 26 to 27 days or outside of the 32, it starts to be considered irregular, but that's still pretty normal. Anything outside of that, you might want to see if you have a hormonal imbalance or if something else is going on with your body that's preventing you from menstruating regularly. Don't expect any certain time frame. Don't expect to, if you get pregnant within the first month, hell yeah, hooray. But just don't expect that. It's normal for a person within the, like peak fertility age to take up to 12 months to get pregnant. That's normal. 12 months is normal. 18 months is getting a little bit shaky. Anything past that, maybe seek fertility assistance, but don't expect to get pregnant right off the bat. And if you do, hell yeah, that's freaking awesome. But it's just so much easier mentally if you go in knowing that this could take some time. This could take some time. It's going to be kind of stressful. It's going to be an emotional journey for you. Just try to keep your mind open to everything, because you don't know what's going to come about next, and you don't want to be stressing you and your partner out during a time of intimacy and bonding and something that's supposed to, keep you guys feeling good and release stress. You don't want to be stressing over having sex. That's no fun. Generally speaking, I'm going to use the 28-day cycle as a reference because that's normal. Your ovulation is going to fall in the middle of that. So about 14 days in. Example, say your period starts on the second day of each month. Your period should start the next month, first, second, third, maybe the fourth. But it's going to keep that same regular pattern of where you can just count 4 weeks down your calendar, mark it, expect your period to start on that day. So now we know about our periods. I do want to mention about the periods. A lot of people are not sure how to find out if it was the first day of their actual period or not, because they spot. Some people have a few days of spotting before a heavy flow starts. A lot of people believe that your true period starts when you actually have a flow of blood. I don't believe that. I've learned that the first day of your period starts the first day you spot any sort of blood, and it's around the normal time. I'm not to say if you spot, a week after your period is over, you could have ovulation spotting, which is something completely different within its own. Some people spot when they ovulate, when that egg gets released and it blows the follicle, they'll bleed a little bit with that. But if you're starting to spot, say if your period's going to start the 2nd of the month and you start to spot like the 29th, the 30th or something, the 1st, the 2nd, like that might be your period coming through. So you should actually count that as the first day of your period if you haven't normally done that. For me, that's what happens. I'll start spotting and then I'll start bleeding heavily and then I'll start spotting again. I'm like, whoa, like where is my period actually starting here? It's kind of getting confusing. And I realized that my period actually starts off very light because you can't really gauge what a normal flow is for your own body. Everybody's going to be different. So try to consider that. Try to think if you do spot, count the spotting as the first day. 2 weeks after your period, that's why I said the 14th day. I wanted to take a second to pause the video just so I can explain this a little bit better to you. I made a little chart. This is based on a 28-day cycle, and it shows that your period would have started on October 2nd. So if you look over to the right, it says LMP, which stands for last menstrual period, and that's just the day that you started your last menstrual period. 2 weeks later, they say a few days before, so it's marked the 14th through the 18th. Those would be your fertile days when you're ovulating. Just because semen lives for a few days, they say it's easier if you start a little bit earlier. And if you look over towards the blue, it's days past ovulation, DPO, and that's any day after you ovulate. If you see the green color, it shows days that you can start taking a test for pregnancy, and they start to be accurate when it's the bright green around the 31st. That'd be the earliest day that you would be able to get a positive result that's more accurate. Some people like to start testing at 9 DPO, which would be 9 days after ovulation, but that is a little bit more, it's a little harder depending on when you actually ovulated. So if you aren't sure, you shouldn't be testing before then, just because you don't want to get your hopes up and you start testing like crazy, and that's no fun. It becomes really, really stressful. That's when your body's going to start getting ready to ovulate, and you'll have different types of cervical mucus. That's the discharge that's coming out of your body, out of your vagina, and it's going to go through phases. So after your period, you might have some discharge, but it's going to be pretty dry. It's not going to be flexible or stretchy in your fingers. It's going to be pretty dry. As your cycle gets further in towards ovulation, your discharge is going to become more stringy. It's going to have more elasticity. It's going to be thicker, and the color is going to change. So it's going to go from being super white to getting more clear. It's going to have like a clear, stretchy, that's why they call it egg whites. If you crack an egg, you're going to have your yolk and you're going to have your whites. That's what I'm like stretching my fingers out hella far, because that's what it does. When you're at your peak fertility, it stretches. And I know a lot of people say that once you actually start to get that discharge, it's like go time. Start having sex, get on it, because your body is becoming more fertile. And I'll talk about this later on the man's part. You shouldn't have to be having sex every single day, multiple times a day, in order to catch the egg or catch the release. I'm sure you've heard before that that's when you should be having sex, but I actually know another, if I can find the name, I will post it in this video. There's another method where they believe that once the egg white discharge or cervical mucus starts to go away, so like you have your peak day, say, like your 16th day into your ovulation or your cycle, it'll be really stretchy and heavy and be coming out a lot. That actually helps with the sperm's mobility and getting through, and it protects it and guides it to the egg better. But there's actually this method that believes that if you wait until the day after that, that's when you're at your perk fertility. That's when the egg is there. That's when it's perfect. There's not too much cervical mucus. It's not going to prevent the sperm from swimming up to the egg. That's like go time. People can literally have sex that one day out of the entire month and still get pregnant. So if you've been trying to get pregnant for a long time and you're taking OPKs, which I'll talk about next, and you notice that nothing is happening, try to have sex the day after, because your egg is released about 12 to 18 hours after you get your first positive OPK, and it only lives for about 24 hours after that, if that. So it's kind of hard to really catch your egg release, you know, your actual ovulation. I mentioned like having sex so much because the man you're having sex with, his sperm count is going down every single time, and it needs some time to, they're always producing, his testicles are always producing more sperm, but you literally need some time to get enough to, I mean, even though they say one sperm can do it all, but no, like, let him build his supply of, like, you don't have to attack him that whole time. It's good. I mean, if your dude is making a lot of sperm and you feel confident with having a lot of sex, freaking go for it. But just something to try. 1 month, if you've been trying to conceive for a long time and you've not had any luck, that's something that you might want to consider trying. OPKs is really confusing for a lot of people. I really would suggest starting to take them 2 to 3 times a day, and they can get pricey. I'll link below and I'll mention a brand. What company really helps you get like your money's worth, and they are also reliable and somewhat easy to read. The thing about OPKs is you have to really keep using them in order to catch your ovulation, you know, and your peak. You're going to go through your phases along, we're using the 28-day cycle. Around like 14, you might get two, it comes with 2 lines. I'm going to have to insert a picture. 2 lines. You have your control line and your test line, just like you would with the pregnancy test. The control line lets you know that the test is working. The test line is letting you know what your test or your hormone amount is. So if you have the slightest line there, that means that you're having the hormone in your body. The darker the line gets, the more the hormone is there. That doesn't mean the egg is there. That just means that your body is passing the hormone that is going to get that egg to release. So when you finally are looking for a true positive ovulation test, the line should be the same color as the control line. So both of those, even if you look the slightest bit, there might be a dot, like literally a dot. In the control line that's darker than the test line, some people would throw that out. That wouldn't be considered positive. A lot of people say, oh, it's positive because it's even. If you're really trying to get pregnant, get the fucking magnifying glass out and look at that line and see if there's any range of darkness within the test line that's not in the control line, because to me, that's negative. It's not a positive test. Once your test line is equal, both lines are evenly, like the color's evenly distributed, that's a positive. You might get a blazing positive where your test line is darker, but with this brand, it's called Easy at Home. That's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get 2 very even lines. I think sometimes I had gotten a little bit darker. The test line would be a little bit darker, which is awesome. And these tests are super affordable. Like I said, I'm gonna link them down below and you can check out the pricing and see if that seems like a good thing for you. Start taking your OPKs about 7 days after your period ends, because some people ovulate early and some people ovulate later. Always do your OPKs the same time every single day, and I really would suggest getting a notebook and gluing them or taping them down, writing the date and the time that you took them, and also putting a note about your cervical mucus, like what consistency it was, the color, the elasticity of it, just so you have an idea and you really start to get in touch with your own body. Making sure that you don't have any sort of chemicals or products or teas, foods that you're using that can actually prevent fertility. It's really hard to say what could cause that. Of course, like substance abuse, drinking, smoking, all that kind of stuff could play a role in it, or it couldn't, you know. But you do want your body to be ready to go. So if you're partying hella hard, like slow down some, because that might be preventing you from getting pregnant. I would suggest starting to take a vitamin, like a prenatal vitamin, upping your like chia seeds. A lot of people believe in like different types of powders. I'll link a bunch of them here because I'm not even going to slaughter the pronunciation of them. But you should do that just because it's just kind of a peace of mind knowing that you're nourishing your body more and you're getting ready to house this human, and that's going to take a lot out of you. So you want to make sure that your body is ready to go anyways. A lot of people drink tea. The caffeine in teas, even some herbal teas, can really play a huge role in your fertility and conception. I was drinking a ton of chamomile tea, like a lot of it, like 6 to 7 cups of tea a day. I was addicted, and I realized that that actually could slow your ability to conceive. I was shocked when I found that out because it's an herbal tea. Like I thought I was doing the right thing, and then come to find out it can actually prevent you from getting pregnant, which is crazy. So I stopped drinking that, and 2 months later I got pregnant. Drink a lot of water. Water's always good for you. Your dude should be drinking a lot of water too. Like a lot of water, both of you. A lot of people are drier, like they don't have cervical mucus, or the man might not be producing a lot of sperm. So there's things that you can use to aid that besides drinking water. Sperm friendly lubricants, there's a few. I know there's one going around called Conceive Plus, and there's another one called Pre-Seed. Those are tricky because you have to know what you're working with. So once you actually start to learn about your own cervical mucus, you'll know if you actually need to use something like that. These sperm-friendly lubricants are for people who are drier or don't produce enough cervical mucus to aid the sperm to reaching the egg. Like it'll dry out, it'll die beforehand. The vagina's pH is too acidic, so it kills the sperm off. So basically those lubricants go in and it's going to act like your body is doing its job, which it is, but it's just needing some help. And it's going to help the sperm get to the egg. If you already produce enough of your own cervical mucus, you don't need that, because even though it's sperm friendly, it's still going to slow the mobility of some sperms down. You don't need Pre-Seed or Conceive Plus if your cervical mucus is abundant enough. You don't need it because you're going to be killing the sperm off. A lot of people will take Robitussin. I can't remember I'll link it right here. It's going to help break down mucus. So basically what it does is it breaks down mucus. Like you're going to want to drink a lot of water with it, but it's going to help dilute your own bodily fluids. So in a man, it's going to make his sperm be more have more fluidity, sorry. And for the woman, it's going to make her cervical mucus have a more liquid consistency. So that's going to help everything flow and reach the egg better than it would without it. Another thing people have been doing is using a soft cup or a menstrual cup to keep the sperm in the vagina. They say that when you're having sex, the sperm is going to be released right at the cervix. It's going to go exactly where it needs to go. It doesn't matter if you stand up. It doesn't matter if you use the restroom right after. It doesn't matter if you put your legs up and hold it for 30 minutes. And that's kind of one of those contradictory beliefs where you feel like the sperm, the longer it's in there, the more it's going to keep going into the cervix and making its way up there to reach the egg. So people really believe in putting a soft cup or a menstrual cup inside just so it holds the sperm, and doing that overnight, leaving it overnight. Others believe that that could be kind of risky, that your body doesn't need all that sperm. But I mean, we were talking about the sperm reaching the cervix and actually making it through the cervix within time to reach the egg. It made me think of the cervix. I really suggest, along with understanding your periods more and your ovulation time frame, to really get to know your vagina, your cervix, understand how it opens, when it closes, because that plays a huge role in your conception. So always, I mean, make sure that it's okay if you're checking your own cervix. I'm not going to recommend it, but if it's okay with your doctor and you feel comfortable, go on with trimmed nails, like trimmed all the way down. You don't want to scratch something inside of there. Clean, washed hands every single time. Very clean hands. It's easier to do this if you're sitting on the toilet, which is kind of weird, but reaching in, there's so many videos you can watch. There's like also the Beautiful Cervix, I think that's the website, and it kind of shows you the different stages of the cervix. When it opens, it shows you the different types of cervical mucus, the period, even what the cervix looks like, the texture of it, the length of it, how open, closed, whatever, everything. It lets you know everything. But basically, your cervix opens when you're ovulating, not this big, but it opens like enough to fit your fingertip. Everybody's differently positioned and whatnot. Knowing the angle of it even, because some people's cervix is tilted forward, backwards, to the side. Some people's like to hide up inside of there. Like, when you're fertile, your cervix is going to be shorter, meaning it's going to be higher up and it's going to be more open. So if you're able to go in and feel that, you know it's getting close to go time. If you have the open high cervix that's super soft, along with a positive OPK and your, you know, in your ovulation time frame, that's gonna up your chance of conception. I think it's super important to just know what your cervix is doing. It's another body part. We don't look at it, we can't see it, but feeling it and feeling comfortable and confident with your body, I think, is very important, just for any aspect, but especially when trying to conceive. If you're trying to prevent pregnancy, you should also take consideration into all of these things. I mean, the health stuff you need anyways. You should just want to be healthy. But knowing when you're fertile, when you ovulate, knowing your period more, being in touch with your cervix, your body, what it's producing, what it's doing, that can be a method of preventing pregnancy, because you know when not to have unprotected sex. Basically, don't have sex if this is going on. Like, if you got a positive OPK and your cervix is high and super moist and you have egg white mucus, don't have sex because you're freaking fertile. You know, just don't do it. Okay, so that's pretty much it for my video. If you stuck through the entire video, I'm hoping that I maybe told you guys something that you didn't know. I'm hoping that you learned something different. If you have any questions or comments, like, please comment down below. I'm more than happy to help with anything that I can help with. I really suggest following a fertility app also. I use Glow. I'll show it. I think Glow is awesome. The community is awesome. Start seeing and being more active in your fertility, because it really helps speaking with other people, other women who are going through the same thing. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching my video. Happy humping.